In this week's message from the angels, they are giving us a much better understanding of the concept of oneness and helping us to better understand how to get there. And it isn't what we normally think. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. I am very glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining me. I am not at home. I am on vacation in Merida, Mexico. So it's super fun to have you guys along with me. We are staying at this very cool old home that's been converted into a hotel. There's like 5 rooms. And in this gorgeous courtyard, which is like right outside our room, which is our last night here, but we have just loved it. So I'll show you really quick. Hold on. So this is the pool area, which is actually really cold, but it's beautiful. Like, and for a hot day, it's like nice to jump in. And then this is where we have our breakfast with these beautiful hammocks, and they keep this little coffee bar going on over here. So it's been super fun to be here, and it's fun to have you guys along with me on an adventure. So now let's go ahead and dive into the message. So for those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Ann Tucker. I am a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm. I do that by going into a deep trance or meditation type state of trance. And from there, I raise my vibration up as high as I can go. And then I stretch a little bit higher. I connect at the angelic realm, and I bring through messages, information, and healing from the angels that I share with you guys here on YouTube. And today's message is, it's pretty deep, it's metaphysical, and I think it's super interesting about the concept of oneness. And if I had to sum it up, I would say it's the idea that we are used to always connecting with others by trying to attune to the vibration of others, sort of lowering or changing or shifting who we are in order to blend in. We are used to trying to fit in. And in the new reality, when we connect into the oneness, that is what we will default to. We're used to living from that perspective. They're saying that when we get there, that is not how we'll achieve it. And they want us to be aware of that, because that will be our default. We will think, if I want to connect with this tree right here, then I need to reach out to the tree. I need to blend in with the tree, merge with the tree. I need to change myself to fit in with the tree. And they're saying, no, that's not how we do it. We're meant to go into the heart to find the comfortable space where the tree and I have something in common. And we're supposed to merge into the unity that's already there, that we are supposed to find in the field of vibration. So it is hard for us to understand right now, but the angels do their best to explain it to us. So before we dive into the message, I want to let you guys know, if you are in New York and you would like to join me in person, we're going to be there at the end of April. I think it's April 27th for a short event, a one-day event where I'm going to bring in the Mother of Creation. We're going to do some healing. It's a chance to see you guys in person. So if you are in the New York area on that day, it's going to be in Tarrytown, which is I think a pretty good location, a convenient location for people. And I would love it if you could join us. So I'm putting the information up here, and I will put it as well as in the connection bar. Actually, over here, there's more space, and then down below in the description box. So I hope you can join us. All right. I hope you enjoy the message.
Beginning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Blessings, beings of light. Being here together once more signifies the exaltation of who you are together, of the oneness that we belong to. The orchestration of your sphere of belonging is becoming more attuned to the oneness that we contain and that we are. Your oneness attenuates itself to the opening, to the bridging, to the beyond nature of who you are becoming. The full instantiation of your own existence has not yet occurred to your own understanding. You have not yet become the fullness of who you can be. And in the next beyond moments, which we are foreshadowing, you shall extend yourselves into the non-presence of the beyond nature, into the exaltation of your own comprehension of what it is to belong. Belonging to the nature of who you are today is the participation is in something that is external to who you are. It is the invitation, the open and unregulated bidding to join into something to which you are merely a part and not the whole. It is the participation in something which can exist without you. It is the sense of yourself as being invited into presence with others who are external. And your own sense of self-regulation attunes itself to that orchestration of otherness. You become aware of the composition of others' energies, and you attenuate your own to attune to what you feel, what you've known, what you've anticipated, to where and how you feel you must behave in order to belong. Belonging, in the way that we know it, in the way that you will come to understand it, has no such obligations. In the continuation of the sphere of your own sensations that will rise, you will come to find yourself belonging by the very nature of who you are becoming. There will be no externalization of all else other than self. There will be a continuation of presence that expands and extends from the internal heart of who you are becoming. Belonging to the self is belonging to the all. To attune to the presence of what you are is to attune to the presence of all that is. In the new understanding of soul and self and all that is, a union is begun, a sense of yourself as having no end and no beginning, as though you are not climbing on a ladder to a higher state of consciousness, but more remembering the totality of your own wholeness. It is the remembering of your own belonging to your soul and to the universe. We are an extension of this sense of who you are. We are your soul expanded into a state of remembering the dignity of the divine. We are that soul, that aspect of all selves, which reaches to the heavens, which extends our awareness to the above nature of who you can become, to the allness that is and ever was. We contain the nature of all beingness. We are the angelic form of remembering your soul as it can be and has become. You will extend yourselves into the nature of what we are. You will come to absolve yourselves of forgetting and to release yourselves from the obligations of the karmic bonds which have been played. And you shall instead herald yourselves as wholeness. You shall find within wholeness that belonging is not necessary, because the wholeness is and always was itself, that you are a part of something which is what you are. There is no externality or externalizing the participation of otherness. Others combine together into a union that shapes the reality that is no more forgetting. Within the context of union, you find yourselves on a framework of continuity within which all harmonies are played eventually. Within the context of I am in attunement with what was and what is becoming. And within that framework, all beingness can be expanded at any point in time as you are experiencing it. There is no non-belongingness. There is an expanded nature that exists within a pinpoint along a framework of understanding soul in a linear model of life. And within every moment, the expansion of the human mind, brain, memory system can occur to be inclusive of all that ever was and all that is occurring now. And your own trajectories will incorporate that which is attuned to your own state of presence, that what you are with and who you are with become what you belong to in that instant, in that moment, in that transparency of visitation. You shall come to herald this new state of beingness as one of full participation as a soul in a reality which combines itself into fluidity for the purpose of your own exaltation. You shall find yourselves remembering who you are in the context of a new brought forth reality which cannot now be fully understood. The newness, the shock, the awe of this experience shall take time through your understanding to acclimate to. You shall not instantaneously understand yourselves as an extension of all that is. You shall instead come to feel some remorseful comprehensions about the purposeful missing and non-belonging you used to experience. You may attempt to separate yourself from the dialogue of all that is for the purpose of feeling your own soul more deeply. We encourage yourselves in the moments of your first exalted breath in that higher state of your own impassioned living to reach for the all, for the wholeness that is in participation with all that is, to experience the understanding of your soul in dialogue with all opportunity and all that comforts you and all that comes forward to meet you. To know your soul is not found in the refuge of isolation, but in the compatibilities that you will find with all that surrounds you. To seek out where you are in union and harmony already, to find and follow the vibrations of attunement that feel comforting, that announce themselves as in harmony with what you are. And from these, you will expand into a universal construct of soul family. And from within that hand holding gesture, you will expand again into the confrontation of all who have ever lived. And beyond that, again, you will find ourselves and all other creatures of the universal field of living, of loving, of beingness. There is only tomorrow and the next moment and the next moment within which you will encounter yourselves. And within each new moment, you may remember this softly held suggestion to receive what comes, not from the perspective of how may I analyze, how may I confront the new reality from the perspective of within, looking without, but instead to attune yourself to what is familiar in the concave and settled portions of your own heartfelt beingness, to seek within an externality to which you already belong. and to feel through this resonant frequency that heightened state of expansiveness, which will carry you forward into the fullness of your own potential.
Okay, so today's message, as we were saying, this is really about this idea that we are going to, in order to understand the concept of oneness, we need to expand outside of our normal way of being, which is to look at the world from the inside out. And the angels here are telling us that we need to turn around and see the world from, almost like seeing it from within us. That oneness is not a thing where we, like I would think of oneness, like if before reading this message and I thought about oneness and I was trying to think about like, how do I do oneness? I would sit and I would think about, like, meditate on the tree in front of me, and I would be like, I'm one with the tree. Like, I would try to tune into the tree's energy. Like, that's how I would have done it. I would have been like, I'm one with the tree. I'm going to attune to the tree energy. And they're saying, no, that's not actually how we do it in the new reality. Once we shift to this higher vibration, to attune to the tree, I would have gone internal, and I would have tried to find what I have in common with the tree. Right? Which is a complete break from how we have been in the past. So it's really a whole different perspective on the concept of connection. So if I had to put it in a nutshell, I would say it is this idea that when we are trying to connect, we would go internal and we would search from within us for the frequencies that are resonating with anything around us. Like almost like tapping into the universal field through our own hearts. So our heart becomes like the feeler that feels into our reality, and that through that we find commonalities, and we would look for what we have in common with whatever is around us, and we would feel that commonality through the heart, and that is how we find oneness and unity. And then in the process of doing that, as we are resonating and feeling and connecting, we are drawing more and more things into our experience that resonate with what we are putting out, and we create an environment of oneness, right? So it's a really, really different idea, as opposed to the oneness within which we're all kind of blended into a big soup, where we're like, I'm just bringing in the trees, and I'm bringing in the little cactus over there, and I'm adding all these things to my soup, and here I am, and but what is the soup? The soup is our heart, right? So it's a very, very different perspective. If it's not reaching out to try to grab all the things to connect with, it is going internal and feeling for the connection that's already there. That's, I guess, the best way I can describe it. We're trying to feel for the connection that's already there. Very, very different perspective than I think I've ever understood before. So, okay, so let's break it down and go paragraph by paragraph, because there are some places in here where it sounds complicated, but once we break it down, you will feel like it makes sense. So they start out, they say, blessings being of light, being here together once more signifies the exaltation of who you are together, right? This is that, and I love that we are exalted when we are together, which is referring to the oneness. Of the oneness that we belong to. So they're saying it's not just us, it's including the angels. The orchestration of your sphere of belonging is becoming more attuned to the oneness that we contain and that we are. So they're saying that the orchestration of our sphere of belonging, the understanding of our sense of ourselves and who we belong to, is starting to expand to include belonging to the angels. So an interesting thing they do in this message is they are doing a little wordplay where they're going back and forth between the word attune and attenuate. And it was confusing to me at first, but it is, they're literally using this little game where they're kind of, so to attune to something is to be receptive, aware, to adapt to, or bring into harmony. So when you attune to something, you're bringing it into harmony, like with you are harmonizing with it, but you're also, so you're really tuning into something and trying to match it. That is what attuning is. And then when you attenuate to something, you are reducing the force or value of it. And so think about with these two words together, if you attenuate in order to attune. And anyway, so we'll go through that as we go. I mentioned that first because they do it several times throughout the message. You talk about attenuate and attuning, and they are different words and they have very different meanings. So in the next paragraph, they start out, they say, your oneness attenuates itself to the opening, to the bridging, to the beyond nature of who you are becoming. So to attenuate, as I said, is to reduce the force or value. So your oneness reduces itself. The completeness of who you can be, the allness of you, right, reduces its force, its value, in order to bridge, right, in order into to this opening. That, in other words, the big you, your higher self, is trying to squeeze itself down so that you can bring more of it into your body. And they are saying it's attenuating itself to be able to fit inside of us as we go through this expansion of consciousness. And they say the fullness, the full instantiation of your existence has not yet occurred to your understanding. You have not yet become the fullness of who you can be, right? So in other words, that attenuation hasn't happened. We haven't yet brought in as much of ourselves as we could possibly hold. That is yet to come. Then they say, and in the next beyond moments, which we are foreshadowing, you shall extend yourselves into the non-presence of the beyond nature. So this is a change. They're saying you'll extend yourselves into the non-presence of the beyond nature. So the beyond nature is like, it's two things. It's beyond, it's like tomorrow, what's coming in the future, but it's also beyond us. What we think of as outside of us. And they're saying it is the non-presence. It is something that it is not a presence. It is basically not something other than us. It is and moving out of ourselves into the beyond. And what do we find in the beyond? We don't find other, we find more of us, right? So you shall extend yourselves into the non-presence, into the not other, basically extending yourself. You find more of you in the beyond nature. Your nature is beyond. It is always you. This is a complicated way of saying it's more of you. And we shall extend ourselves into this concept of being able to extend ourselves and to find not other, but more of self. And they say into the exaltation of your own comprehension of what it is to belong. So we are changing our idea of what belonging is. They go on to say, next paragraph, belonging to the nature of who you are today. And here they're going to describe how we currently think of belonging. It is the participation in something that is external to who you are. It is the invitation, the open and unregulated bidding, which is like the concept of belonging, warm fuzzies, right? It's open, it's loving, and to join into something to which you are merely a part and not the whole. It is the participation in something which can exist without you. So that is when we think of what it is to belong today, by definition, it means being part of something that's not us. We belong to a group or to a family or to something that is outside of us. So even the word belong, it's not about self, it is about our relationship to others. So this is really turning the concept of belonging on its head, because that is where we are today. They go on to say, they elaborate, and they say, it is the sense of yourself as being invited into presence with others who are external, right? And your own sense of self-regulation attunes itself to that orchestration of otherness. So there, that the tune is to be receptive, aware, to adapt to bring into harmony. So in other words, when we are trying to belong, we change ourselves, right? We become something other than what we really are. We try to blend, we try to fit in, right? That's what they're saying here. We are trying to fit in. And so we regulate ourselves, we change, we lower our frequency or shift our frequency. We change ourselves to try to harmonize with all of what is outside of us. We look outside, we try to perceive what is, and we try to match that, right? So that we can blend in. So then they say, you become aware of the composition of others' energies, and you attenuate, which means to reduce, right? To reduce the value of, it means we don't value ourselves as much, and we reduce the force of. So that is the attenuate. We attenuate our own energy to attune to what you feel, what you've known, what you've anticipated, to where and how you feel you must behave in order to belong, right? So we reduce the value of ourselves to match other people. They go on to say, next paragraph, belonging in the way that we know it, in the way that you will come to understand it, has no such obligation. Beautiful. So in other words, we don't have to change. We come out with our full value of who we are in the new way of being. In the continuation of the sphere of your own sensations that will rise, you will come to find yourself belonging by the very nature of who you are becoming. So in other words, belonging is just a given. It already happens. There will be no externalization of all else other than self. There will be a continuation of presence that expands and extends from the internal heart of who you are becoming. So this, I bolded. I don't have my highlighter with me on this trip, so I haven't used the bold feature. I bolded this. There will be a continuation of presence that expands and extends from the internal heart of who you are becoming. So the reason I bolded that was they're trying to express that when we are trying to connect with the all, we are not reaching outside of us. It is an expanding who we are, right, from the heart, to incorporate more of what is of beyond our normal physiology, right? It is expanding to connect with that which attunes to us, which is vibrating in harmony with what we are. That's how we achieve oneness. So it's the concept of, rather than attenuating or dumbing down our frequency and attuning ourselves to others, which is changing who we are, we instead go internal, find the ways in which we, through our heart, what we match, and we connect that way. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that's clear, you guys, because it's a big shift, a big change in how we think about this concept of belonging entirely. And it's through the heart. Belonging to the self is belonging to the all. To attune to the presence of what you are is to attune to the presence of all that is. So again, how do we do it? We have to get quiet and attune to who we are on the inside. And that's the gateway, right? That's the passage through. So, and then they say, in the new understanding of soul and self and all that is, a union has begun. A sense of yourself as having no end and no beginning, as though you are not, I really like this part, as though you are not climbing on a ladder to a higher state of consciousness, but more remembering the totality of your own wholeness. So this is, I love this, as it gets away from the concept of hierarchy in a soul's development. And it instead says that it is not about climbing a ladder. It's not about, and even they say this, it's a shift to a different frequency, a different state of being. And that state of being is really just about opening up to, and they always say this about more of who you really are, but it is the totality of your own wholeness, the understanding that everything around you is you on some level. And this really brings me back to the experience I had when I had my first really huge vision, the second huge vision of the Mother of Creation, when I began channeling her. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Mother of Creation, it is not just another way of saying God. Mother of Creation is not God. I refer to God as God or Source. Mother of Creation is created by God, but she is the mother of all souls, that she birthed, like from God, through her souls birthed. And she is, like, all of the words that we have for divine feminine energy, they usually all relate back to her. So including like Mother Earth or all the different words that we have, and all of the different cultures that have names for divine feminine energy. But she is the creator goddess. One of the first times I had a very visceral experience of her, I saw that she was merging with a sun, which is how she became creative. And in that process, she merged with the sun and merged with the creative properties of the sun, but she could not merge with everything that the sun was, that I could see that there was aspects of the sun that she could never become. So this, to me, is what they're talking about here. They're talking about the sense of belonging, that we connect along the lines of everything we have in common, but that doesn't mean that you are 100% of what the other person is, or what the tree is, or what anything is. That you find the points of commonality between you and all things, and that's how we achieve the concept of oneness. So yeah, so very, very different understanding. And then we come together by emphasizing and resonating in those frequencies of connection and the things that we share. Which I think is so unique, because so often as a human, like, what we're trying to focus on are the ways that would make us separated. We're trying to always focus on, well, I'm not like that. I'm different from that. This is my identity. Who I am is I focus on what makes me different. And they're saying, yep, in the new reality, it's not that anymore. It is what connects me to you. And that becomes what's interesting and valuable to explore. Very, very cool. Okay, so they go on to say, so here this is very interesting, this is where they talk about then how do angels fit into this concept, that if we are expanding ourselves to incorporate the all, where do angels fit? And they say, we, the angels, are an extension of this sense of who you are. We are your soul expanded into a state of remembering the dignity of the divine. In other words, when we expand to the degree that we are feeling the connection with the divine, then we are like the angels, that we resonate on the same frequency as the angels. If we feel the connection to the divine, so do the angels, and that creates a frequency that we share, and we become them in that moment, right? That we have that commonality that we connect on. And they go on to say, we are that soul, that aspect of all selves which reaches for the heavens, right? So anytime any soul reaches for the heavens in that way, they are resonating in commonality, in frequency with the angels. And then they say, which extends our awareness to the above nature of who you can become. All right, and then they go on to say, to the allness that is and ever was. We contain the nature of all beingness. We are the angelic form of remembering your soul as it can be and has become. Beautiful. You will extend yourselves to the nature of what we are. You will come to absolve yourselves of forgetting and to release yourselves from the obligations of the karmic bonds which have been played. So as they've told us, we do get to release our karma. Yes! And then they say, and you shall instead herald yourselves as wholeness. You shall find within wholeness that belonging is not necessary, because the wholeness is and always was itself. That you are a part of something which is what you are. So in other words, the whole concept of separation doesn't make any sense when we understand that we are everything. But we are everything through commonality, that we can never be exactly what the tree is. But we have many things in common with the tree. And when we resonate on the frequency of connection between us and the tree, we find oneness. We find oneness by seeking commonality, right? Isn't that amazing, you guys? It seems so simple, this concept of oneness, when you think of it that way. We just have to get out of our own way by understanding that we have commonality between us and everything, that we just have to find it, right? That we have to feel it through the heart. The heart is the gateway. All right, they go on to say, there we are. There is no externality or externalizing the participation of otherness. Others combine together into a union that shapes the reality that is no more forgetting. So others combine together into a union that shapes the reality that is no more forgetting. So once we get to this space of connection into the oneness, once we find how to resonate with each other and find our commonalities, then there is no more forgetting. At that point, we have remembered ourselves. Within the context of union, you may find yourselves on a framework of continuity within which all harmonies are played eventually within the context of I am, in attunement with what was and what is becoming. So, okay, this is where it starts to get complicated. So let's break this down. So within the context of union, you find yourselves on a framework of continuity within which all harmonies are played eventually within the context of I am, in attunement with what was and what is becoming. So this is a complex little sentence here. So the way I understand this, and I always leave room, if you guys pick up things that I miss, I always want to leave space for you guys to add your perceptions, because we are much stronger as a whole than we are as one. So, but the idea here is that you're in a framework in which all harmonies are played eventually. In other words, eventually, we will express all energies. And sort of that's the idea, that in the process of incarnating and reincarnating, that we eventually play all sides of the game. That sometimes we're the perpetrator, sometimes we're the victim, sometimes we're the rich person, sometimes we're the poor person, right? The concept is that we are engaging in life with the idea that we want to eventually express all energies. And then they say, within the context of I am. So then they say, and the I am is that idea of that me as a soul. And let me make sure that this is working. Yes, okay, good. And then they say, in attunement with what was and what is becoming. And within that framework, all beingness can be expanded at any point in time. So within the context of, imagine that we are moving through time, and in any one moment, we can expand into connection and unity with anything. And that is what they're saying here. All beingness can be expanded into at any point in time. So and so that is how I read that. So like I said, it gets very metaphysical here, but very interesting. So, and so that in attunement with what was and what is becoming, and within that framework, all beingness can be expanded at any point in time as you are experiencing it. They go on to say there is no non-belongingness. So there's no concept of ourself as being separated from what is around us, because we perceive ourselves to be in harmony or in resonance with at least some aspect of everything around us. So we, by nature, we say, and I think there is some culture that actually has that as part of their hello, that their hello is, you are what I am, or something to that nature, which is kind of amazing. And I can't remember, does anybody know that? Does that ring a bell for anyone? There's literally a culture that says hello that way, that says, I am what you are, or you are what I am, referring to this concept of otherness, of belongingness in a new way. Yeah, that just popped in my head. It is so cool. So, so there is no non-belongingness. There is an expanded nature that exists within a pinpoint, along a framework of understanding soul, in a linear model of life. So they're trying to draw this picture in your head of, imagine a timeline, right? That you have a timeline. And along that timeline, you have like a pinpoint. And that pinpoint is like a triangulation of like space, time, and dimension. And you are here, you're this point. But within that point, it may seem this big, but they said because you can attune to everything in that moment, right? To that you can be a part or connected to anything that is in your reality, that you have the ability to express all energies. And they say, and within every moment, the expansion of the human mind, brain, memory system can occur to be inclusive of all that ever was and all that is occurring now. So you can expand what you perceive, the human mind, brain, memory. Think about that. So this is that idea that we draw into our perception all of our capacity, right? Mind, brain, memory, all of our perception, our perceiving, and that can be expanded to perceive unity with all that is. Yeah. It is this is very metaphysical, but I think it's important, very, very important to understand this part, because it is helping us to grasp a little better what they're talking about. So, and then they say, it can occur to be inclusive of all that ever was and all that is occurring now. And your own trajectories will incorporate that which is attuned to your own state of presence. So to be attuned, that which is attuned to you is that which you attract. But what are you attracting into your reality? What is vibrating in harmony with what you are? And they say that what you are with and who you are with become what you belong to in that instant, in that moment, in that transparency of visitation. So it's like finding a shared... She's coming. Oh, it went away. Okay, good. that in other words, from our reality, we're able to pull into a shared experience everything that is in harmony with it, or everything that we vibrate or resonate with. All right, next paragraph, they say, you shall come to herald this new state of beingness as one of full participation as a soul in a reality which combines itself into fluidity for the purpose of your own exaltation. Again, a mouthful, so let's break it down. You shall come to herald this new state of beingness as one of full participation as a soul in a reality which combines itself into fluidity for the purpose of your own exaltation. So in other words, to say that concept of fluidity, that the world is becoming, and that it's not structured according to our expectations, that there's a fluidity to what is going to express itself based on what we're vibrating with. How are we feeling in the moment? And then what will attune itself to our vibration? And will we reach out into our reality and say, I feel like I'm really in harmony with the chocolate chip cookie right now, right? I'm bringing that into my reality because I'm vibrating cookie, right? Or am I vibrating fruit? It's probably a healthier choice. But it is that idea that what are we calling in? It is manifesting, but switched away from the concept of manifesting something outside of ourselves to connecting or vibrating with what is already part of ourselves, and forming that connection as a sense of unity, and letting our reality be fluid so that it can respond to us and reflect us, and that we can change what we're vibrating with in any moment. They say, you shall find yourselves remembering who you are in the context of a new, brought forth reality which cannot now be fully understood. So they're acknowledging this is hard for us to grasp, which is like, yeah, that's true. It is kind of hard to grasp. It's complicated, you guys. They go on to say, the newness, the shock, the awe of this experience shall take time through your understanding to acclimate to. So we're not going to get this right away. It'll be a little complicated to us in the beginning, which I think is going to be natural. It's not this concept of not reaching outside of ourselves is going to be a brand new thing. They say, you shall not instantaneously understand yourselves as an extension of all that is. You shall instead come to feel some remorseful comprehensions. Oh, I have another issue. Hopefully it's still moving. Is it moving? Let's see. Hopefully it's still connecting. Oh, good. It looks like it's still going. It just having a little issue on my end, but it looks like it's still going, so that's good. You shall, where was I? Okay. Where was it? You shall instead come to feel some remorseful comprehensions about the purposeful missing and non-belonging you used to experience. You may attempt to separate yourself from the dialogue of all that is for the purpose of feeling your own soul more deeply. So that is about, you shall instead come to feel some remorseful comprehensions about the purposeful missing and non-belonging you used to experience. In other words, when we don't understand what we're dealing with, when we can't quite follow the feelings that we're having, our first tendency will be to go back to the way we always have been, to go back to how we're used to behaving, which is to try to understand it by reaching outside of ourselves, to seeing things as other, as opposed to seeing them as part of who we are, rather than trying to connect through the heart to find this resonant frequency that we share, right? That unless we have a conscious understanding of what we're trying to do, our first thing is going to be to fall back on what we've always done, which is to attenuate, right? To try to squish ourselves to fit with someone else, to feel some sense of unity, right? To squash our own vibration. They say you may attempt to separate yourself from the dialogue of all that is for the purpose of feeling your own soul more deeply. So in other words, that we will go back into the sense of separation in the attempt to understand what is other, because that is how we have always tried to connect. We've always tried to connect by understanding what is other. And they're saying that's not the way we're meant to do. It's a habitual way of seeking, which is through differences. And now we're supposed to be seeking through what we have in common. They go on to say, we encourage yourselves in the moments of your first exultant breath, in that higher state of your own impassioned living, to reach for the all, for the wholeness that is in participation with the all that is. They're saying the very first moment, right, that when we have this great awakening, when we go through this period of expansion, when we feel this like, oh my gosh, where is I? Where am I? Cheryl says I'm always vibrating cookie. I like to think I am always vibrating cookie too, especially chocolate chip cookie. Thank you for that. That's so funny. So, but they say in that first moment, we want to reach for the all, for the wholeness that is in participation with the all that is, to experience the understanding of your soul in dialogue with all opportunity and all that comforts you. So this is starting to get into some really helpful understanding of how do we do this. All that comforts you and all that comes forward to meet you. So what they're saying here is the frequency that we need to attune to is what is comforting. So we should absolutely vibrate cookie. Like if cookies are comforting, vibrate cookie. Like it is that idea that we're meant to not seek the differences, which can make us feel isolated and lonely and sometimes scared, to instead find that by finding what is common between us and someone else, that actually feels comforting. It feels like coming home. And that, I think, is what they're trying to convey, that it's like coming back to a thing that you already know. And so you feel like, oh, I know how to do this. I know how to fit in here. I know how to connect with this person, because we have these shared experiences or these frequencies that we have in common. And we can connect and bond through that and create unity between us. So comfort is a way of describing that feeling of coming home to something that maybe you've never even known before, right? And they say, and all that comes forward to meet you. So another beautiful concept, that it isn't even that we have to reach out, is that you, as the dynamic creator, are drawing these things to you that are resonating in agreement that are attuning to your frequency, that will feel comforting because they are coming home to you, right? They feel a resonant frequency shared with you. So beautiful. So to know your soul is not found in the refuge of isolation, but in the compatibilities that you will find with all that surrounds you, right? In a nutshell, that's it. Not found in the refuge of isolation, but in the compatibilities that you will find with all that surrounds you. So that is what we're seeking. We're seeking, how are we compatible? What do we have in common? And that's not a head thing, that is a heart thing. What are the frequencies that we share? And so in some cases, we may have no idea like what it is. We may just feel like a certain warmth, a certain like comfort with someone, and not really know, like we might not be able to put a name on it. It might not be a thing where it's like, hey, we both grew up in Baltimore or whatever. It will be like a feeling of like a shared something that we can't quite put our finger on, I think. And maybe we'll have more detail to that, but we might not, which is so it's a heart-based thing, is what they're talking about here. So if we go into our head, we're going to be seeking, which puts us into other, which makes us diminish our vibration. We have to get back into the heart and just feel, where do we find comfort? Where do we find connection? And go from there. They go on to say, to seek out where you are in union and harmony already, to find and follow the vibrations of attunement that feel comforting, that announce themselves as in harmony with what you are. And from these, you will expand into a universal construct of soul family. So here they give us sort of 3 levels. So in the beginning, they're saying, first, we will go through this process of finding what we connect with, or what is in frequency with us. And that is what is directly around us, right? What is in our physical reality that we're vibrating in attunement with. And they will say, okay, that is like the first level. That's like soul family. And so that could be a pillow, or that could be a table, or a person, or a dog, or a tree, whatever. But it is like, that's the first level, soul family. And that's not the only definition of soul family, but they're using that here as a layer to describe it. And they're saying, okay, so they say, and from these you will expand to a universal construct of soul family. And from within that, hand-holding gesture, so they're saying this is just the first step to get us used to the idea of being in connection with things. From that hand-holding gesture, you will expand again into the confrontation of all who have ever lived, right? So that's the next level. So once we get beyond our first reality, which is the soul family that we're currently incarnated with here on Earth, right? All of us that are sharing this reality, once we get comfortable with connecting to all of each other, then we graduate to connect with all who have ever lived, right? All human souls. That's the next level. Collective consciousness is the second level, right? Then beyond that, again, you will find ourselves, the angels, and all other creatures of the universal field of living, of loving, of beingness. So they describe 3 levels of connection that we will move through as we get used to this concept of oneness and belonging. So we will go through first connecting with all humans on Earth, right? Then we will, or all of Earth. Then we will connect to all the collective consciousness, including humans that are not currently incarnated, everyone who's ever lived. Then we will move beyond humanity and connect with angels and other beings and Pleiadians and whoever else that you love out there, right? That you get to connect with everyone. So those are the 3 layers that oneness will gradually, like rings, right? We will gradually move out, move out, move out. So this is not, what they're really communicating here is this is not a one and done. This is not a thing where we wake up one day and we're like, I'm in oneness. It's like, no, it's like, it's at first we're going to be kind of freaked out. We're going to be trying to figure out how to navigate from this new place and try to understand. And our first response is to try to go into other and to lower our frequency or change our frequency to try to belong. And they're going to say, nope, don't do that. Instead, try to resonate, find the commonality, seek the comforting frequencies with other people, the places where you feel connection, the places where you feel union with others, and let those expand until you can finally embrace all of humanity, right? And finally, all of the universe. Super cool. It sounds like a lot, doesn't it? I mean, it sounds hard. I mean, honestly, it doesn't sound easy. But I am saying that from our current level of consciousness, and I think it will be easier when we get there. I think that, like they keep telling us, there's no way we can understand it now. From our current state of consciousness, we cannot wrap our head around it. So I think it's not shocking that we can't quite get it. They go on to say, there is only tomorrow and the next moment within which you will encounter yourself. So here they're trying to say, I think they know this is a lot, and they're saying, don't worry about it. Just focus on the next moment, right? Just don't stress about trying to do all of this now. Just be focused on the next moment, right? They say, and within each new moment, you may remember this softly held suggestion. So again, very gentle, right? They're trying to say, like, don't worry about it. You got it. They're going to be fine. They say to receive what comes not from the perspective of how may I analyze, how may I confront the new reality from the perspective of within looking without. So they just try to be self-aware when we're trying to do it the old way. And they say instead, attune yourself to what is familiar in the concave and settled portions of your own heartfelt beingness. To seek within an externality to which you already belong. So just it's really about, they're trying to help us to become self-aware and just to notice when we go through this shift, are we trying to change ourselves to connect? Like, are we trying to define ourselves and to seek what is outside of ourselves? Or are we learning to connect via the heart to what is common, that what we have in common with others? Right? And then they said to seek within, to seek in the heart, an externality to which we already belong, right? To seek what is familiar in the concave and settled portions of your, so I love that concave is like cozy, right? In the cozy places in your own happy comfort is where we're supposed to go. So it doesn't sound so bad. It doesn't sound so hard. It sounds like just seek comfort inside yourself and find the connections from there. But it sounds lovely. It's like talking about dancing. How do you do that? But I think once we get there, it won't be so hard. It just is hard from where we are today. Yeah. And to feel through this resonant frequency, that heightened state of expansiveness, which will carry you forward into the fullness of your own potential. Right? It's a beautiful message. And like I said, very metaphysical. I'm so sorry about the couple of crunchy moments there in my broadcast. I was like, complicated. Thank you for bearing with me, you guys. But to me, like, I'm so glad that we were able to get back online and to finish this together, because it is, like, I find this to be deep, like deep stuff. And in some ways so simple, and at the same time, like it's like the idea, yeah, seek comfort. That sounds so easy, but yeah, how the heck do you do that when we are so conditioned to live life from the perspective of other, and that we are so conditioned to looking from the inside out? And I mean, like, I remember when I was a little girl that I used to be afraid to call and make reservations, like dinner reservations. Like my mom or dad would say, hey, call and make reservations. And I would be like, ooh, no, you know, because it was like scary to be out in the world and to make, what if I didn't know what to say or what to ask? And it felt I just remember being a little girl and feeling, now I think about that, like how silly that was, but it was very real to me at the time. And it was the concept of other. Like, who is on the other line, on the end of the mysterious phone? Who is the mystery person I'm talking to? And what if I say the wrong thing and I do it wrong? And right, all of that, which is other, the mysterious other. And that we need to learn to, I mean, that's deep conditioning. And we need to learn to see it in a new way and to say, who's ever on the other end of the phone is me. And what are the things, in what ways is the person on the other end of the phone me? And if I vibrate, if I attune to that through the heart, when I talk with them, that is what they will feel as well. And we will unite and connect. And the fact is that we have something in common with virtually everyone. It's like, what is it, like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? But it's true. But it's deeper than that. It's not just who do we know. It's who are we at our core, that we have all had things in common, experiences. If we as a group went through and listed, like I answered a series of 100 questions about our lives, I guarantee you that as we went through those experiences, if we answered 100 questions, each of us would find at least one thing in common with everybody else here, if not many things in common with everybody else here. And so rather than trying to do that through lists and through thinking, we're supposed to do that through our heart, through feeling. And the thing we're trying to find in common is not, you know, where we lived or where, you know, whatever. It's, you know, where we work, that kind of stuff. It's who we are at a vibrational level. Thank you so much for joining me for today's message. I hope it has been meaningful and helpful to you. It means a lot to me that you're here to share these messages together as part of this community. I think we all, it benefits us all as we are sharing the energy that it takes to bring these energies in, to receive them, and to share them with the collective. So thank you so much for your participation and for your comments, for your likes, and for your subscription. I genuinely appreciate it. Thanks so much. I'll see you next Friday Live.